April 9th, 2025, dawned with a sense of foreboding that quickly escalated into a maelstrom of geopolitical and economic turmoil. The catalyst? Former US President Donald Trump, seemingly allergic to the political sidelines, announced sweeping new tariffs on goods from China, sending shockwaves through global markets already on edge. The move, a significant escalation of the US-China trade war, was met with immediate condemnation and threats of retaliation from Beijing. Adding fuel to the fire were concurrent reports of political instability in Brazil and the UK, painting a picture of a world grappling with interconnected crises. While the initial tariff announcement sent the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeting, a subsequent partial reversal by Trump provided a brief respite, with markets paring losses. However, the damage was done. The spectre of a global trade war, with the US seemingly spoiling for a fight, loomed large. The day's events underscored the fragility of the post-pandemic global order. The interconnectedness of the global economy meant that a policy decision in Washington, D.C. could trigger economic tremors in Beijing, Sao Paulo, and London. As analysts scrambled to assess the fallout, one thing was clear: the world was holding its breath, bracing for the next chapter in this unfolding saga. Former President Trump's decision to impose new tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods marked a significant escalation of the US-China trade war. The move, which could potentially push combined tariffs on Chinese goods to a staggering 104%, was met with a mix of confusion and concern. Initially, Trump announced tariffs targeting a broad range of countries, sending markets into a tailspin. This was followed by a partial reversal, with Trump claiming he was pausing additional tariffs on countries beyond China after sensing market jitters. This about-face, however, did little to soothe frayed nerves. The damage was done, and the message was clear. Trump remained committed to his protectionist agenda, even if it meant risking global economic stability. The former president, true to form, defended his actions, arguing that over 75 countries were currently negotiating trade deals with the US. This claim, however, rang hollow for many who saw the tariffs as a reckless gamble with potentially disastrous consequences. The tariff announcement immediately drew sharp criticism from both sides of the aisle, with some of Trump's own allies expressing concern about the economic fallout. Representative Stephen Horsford condemned the move, stating, "The president's erratic trade policy is hurting American families and businesses." The tariffs, seen by many as a political maneuver designed to appease Trump's base, threatened to upend global trade and plunge the world into a recession. The international community reacted to Trump's tariff announcement with a mixture of anger and apprehension. China, the primary target of the new tariffs, wasted no time in vowing retaliation. A spokesperson for the Chinese Ministry of Commerce stated that China would take all necessary measures to safeguard its legitimate rights and interests. The statement, while short on specifics, signaled Beijing's resolve to engage in a protracted trade war with the US. The European Union, already grappling with its own set of challenges, expressed deep concern over the escalating trade tensions. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, speaking at a press conference in Brussels, warned that the tariffs would harm businesses and consumers on both sides of the Atlantic. She emphasized the EU's commitment to free trade and urged the US to reconsider its protectionist policies. The escalating trade war between the world's two largest economies sent ripples of anxiety through the international community. Emerging markets, already struggling with the economic fallout of the pandemic, feared further instability. The International Monetary Fund warned that a full-blown trade war could shave off 0.5% of global GDP growth. The immediate impact of Trump's tariff announcement was felt most acutely in the financial markets. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged by over 300 points in early trading, reflecting investor anxiety over the escalating trade war. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq also experienced significant declines, with technology stocks hit particularly hard. While the markets later recovered some of their losses following Trump's partial reversal, the volatility underscored the fragility of the global economy. Economists warned that the tariffs, if left unchecked, could tip the world into a recession. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, speaking at an economic forum in Washington, D.C., cautioned that a prolonged trade war would have dire consequences for the global economy. He urged policymakers to find a resolution, warning that the current trajectory was unsustainable. The tariffs also threatened to fuel inflation, already a concern in many parts of the world. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, speaking at a press conference following the Fed's latest policy meeting, acknowledged that the tariffs posed an upside risk to inflation. He hinted that the Fed could be forced to raise interest rates sooner than anticipated to combat rising prices. The business community found itself caught in the crossfire of the escalating trade war. Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, took to Twitter to criticize the tariffs, calling them economically unsound and bad for America. Musk, whose companies rely heavily on global supply chains, argued that the tariffs would harm American businesses and consumers. His comments highlighted the growing unease within the business community about the Trump administration's protectionist policies. Peter Navarro, a former trade advisor to Trump, dismissed Musk's concerns, arguing that the tariffs were necessary to protect American jobs and intellectual property. Navarro, a staunch advocate of protectionism, maintained that the US could not afford to be taken advantage of in trade deals. His comments underscored the deep divisions within the business community over the wisdom of Trump's trade policies. The uncertainty surrounding the trade war led to a decline in business investment and hiring, as companies adopted a wait-and-see approach. The tariffs also threatened to disrupt global supply chains, potentially leading to higher prices for consumers. While the US-China trade war dominated headlines, political storms were brewing in other parts of the world. In Brazil, protests erupted in major cities following a disputed presidential election. The incumbent, Jair Bolsonaro, narrowly defeated his leftist challenger, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, in a vote marred by allegations of voter suppression and fraud. Bolsonaro's supporters hailed his victory, while Lula's supporters accused the government of stealing the election. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Boris Johnson faced mounting pressure to resign following a series of scandals. Johnson's approval ratings had plummeted amid accusations of corruption and incompetence. The UK's exit from the European Union, already a contentious issue, added to the political turmoil, with many blaming Johnson for the country's economic woes. The political instability in Brazil and the UK underscored the fragility of democracy in an era of rising populism and economic uncertainty. The event served as a stark reminder that the challenges facing the world extended far beyond the realm of trade. As April 9th, 2025 drew to a close, the world found itself at a crossroads. The escalating trade war between the US and China, coupled with political turmoil in Brazil and the UK, painted a picture of a world grappling with interconnected crises. The uncertainty surrounding these events sent shockwaves through global markets and left many wondering what the future held. The day's events served as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the global economy and the fragility of the post-pandemic world order. The decisions made by leaders in Washington, Beijing, Brasilia, and London would have far-reaching consequences, shaping the geopolitical landscape for years to come. As the world braced itself for the next chapter in this unfolding saga, one thing was certain: the path ahead would be fraught with challenges and uncertainty.